Good evening. If you need interpretation services from English to Spanish, please select the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select Spanish. Committee members, in the event that we have public comment in Spanish, you will need to select the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select English. Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Para los que van a querer acceder a la reunión en español, en un momento van a poder deslizarse hacia la parte inferior de la página, donde va a aparecer un botón, un globo, para seleccionar el idioma español. Si se están conectando a través de un aparato móvil, puede que sean 3 puntitos. Para los miembros del comité, les pedimos seleccionar el inglés en caso de que hayan comentarios del público. Gracias.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Catherine McGill, and I'm the chair of the 2022 Redistricting Committee for the City of Albuquerque, redrawing our city council boundaries. I want to thank you all for being here and just welcome the attendees who are participating here in the webinar, all of our committee members who've been working on this project for the past several months, and those of you joining us on YouTube. All of these meetings have been memorialized on the City of Albuquerque's website, and will be there for individuals to go back and review this meeting and all the other meetings that have been a part of this process. We want to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin by looking at the minutes of the previous meeting on June 8th of 2022. I trust that all of the committee members have had an opportunity to review the minutes, and I will give you a moment to let me know if you have not seen them and need them. And if not, we can get them to you. If everyone has seen them and had an opportunity to review, I would accept the motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from the previous meeting on June 8th. All in favor, just by voice vote, say aye.
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 Any opposed? So those meeting minutes are approved. As has been our practice, we will talk about what we've done in terms of communications and to get the word out about this meeting since our last meeting. And we have so far about 30 attendees in the webinar today. I'm not certain how many on YouTube, but what have we done, Julian, to ensure that people know about the process?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following the last committee meeting, our office has sent out 2 MailChimp newsletters asking for public input on the recommended maps from the 8 the committee is ranking tonight. That latest MailChimp newsletter also included the details for tonight's meeting. The Office of Neighborhood Coordination has included the committee's information in their weekly e-newsletters. The digital and social advertisements continue to run up to tonight's council meeting from the beginning of June, or up from tonight's committee meeting, excuse me, from the beginning of June. Last week, our office sent out the regular press release with information on the committee and tonight's meeting, sent out our MailChimp newsletter that I mentioned earlier, and posted to our social media. The general City of Albuquerque social accounts have posted about the committee and the upcoming meeting, along with the Office of Neighborhood Coordination. The committee in tonight's meeting was featured in an article in Albuquerque Journal this morning, and I saw one TV news story leading up to tonight's meeting as well. For my last report to the committee, we've increased the number of subscribers to the newsletter from 79 to 100.
Thank you. And I'm wondering if staff might give us some idea. And I want to start the meeting by saying that although we're doing recommendations tonight, that the process continues with the City Council review of the recommendations that we ultimately will deliver tonight. And I'm wondering if we can put into the record what happens after the recommendations from this committee go to council. What would that process be?
Madam Chair, thank you. That's an excellent question. So the the next steps are, the first thing we'll be doing is on Friday, the July 1st deadline. The report will be going A, to all of the counselors, and B, going on the project website. That report will go to council for the next letter of introduction, which is August 1st. There will be 2 bills. One will be an OC, meaning an other communication, and that will be for the council to accept the report. And then the second bill will be an ordinance that makes the changes to the district boundaries. It will be up to the sponsor of that bill what their starting point is, but I would imagine that the starting point will be the recommendation of the committee.
What will be the opportunity for the public to have input in that process?
So they can speak at the August 1st meeting under general public comments about the bills that are on the letter of introduction. We're anticipating that because this affects all 9 councillors, it's not really the sort of thing that we'd send to a subcommittee, because that would only mean we'd be talking to 5 of the 9. And so that we can get this in front of all of the councillors, the proposal is to do what we call a double holdover. And so that means that it will be heard at the first meeting in September and by the full council. So it won't go to any subcommittees. The reason for the double holdover is to give us enough time to do the required advertising that an ordinance is required to have, legal advertising.
And can we ask that that process be articulated on the website?
Yes, we'll be updating the website when we put the report on with the process, and then the master email list that Julian has been maintaining. The report will go out to everyone on that list, and it'll have the same content about the process in it for the public.
And the process is completed by when?
So the councillors don't have a deadline. They might feel very comfortable with the map that's recommended and maybe only have minor tweaks. And in which case they could potentially act at that first meeting that they hear it on the double holdover in September. Or they might want to have a bit more discussion and could act on it at the next meeting, or they could want to have a lot of discussion and it could go on until they reach a conclusion.
Great. Is there anything else that the public would need to know about, if they are unhappy with the recommendations that we ultimately choose tonight? What recourse do they have at that point?
So the public comment component on the website is going to remain open, and we will continue accepting public comments throughout. So that will be a very easy way for the public to reach out to the councillors. They can also send comments through just the general city council page. There's a email your councillor option, and you can choose to email 1 councillor, 2 councillors, or all of the councillors. And members of the community can also submit comments that way. Everything that we get in through the Districtor website will be sending to Crystal. Crystal is the clerk to the City Council, and she will put all of those public comments into one PDF and have those on the iPads for the councillors to review in anticipation of the meeting in September.
And any recourse for dissenting members of the committee? What is that process?
So there is an option built in for, and I've just forgotten the name of it, but for an alternate recommendation to be sent. I think it's called like a
minority report.
Thank you. Minority report. Yes. And so if there is interest in sending a recommendation as a minority report, that is also an option. You're also able to send as many maps as you wish. I think the rating process may give you a sense of how many maps you do want to send. I believe in the last council redistricting process, they did a rating process, And all of the maps that got a vote of some sort were sent forward to the council, and then they were sent with the scores associated with them. And so the council actually, I think, ended up with 8 or 10 maps forwarded to them, with 2 or 3 that had very high scores, and then the rest kind of a mix of scores.
Thank you. Did any other committee members have any questions of council about the process beyond our recommendation? I don't see any questions, so we'll thank you to staff for the communications update and process information. The next item on the agenda is related to any maps that were submitted since our meeting on June 8th via districtor. Do we have any maps that were presented? I don't believe that we did. So at this point, we will go to public comment, and we'll begin by reading the written comments into the record, and then we'll allow members of the public to join us with camera, full name, to make any public comment. You do have 2 minutes for public comment, and I'd ask Vice Chair Kellerman to read those written comments into the record and to run the public comment section for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have quite a few pages of public comments, and I'm going to do my best to honor all of them. Some of them have large documents attached. So just a preemption, I'll be referencing those attachments. They can be referenced in full as they were shared to the rest of the committee. And I'll be reading all of the comments in full. Starting with comments that were submitted during the last meeting on June 8th. We have Debbie Conger. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the South Los Altos Neighborhood Association, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not the association because our board has not had time to discuss this. I am strongly opposed to the South Los Altos neighborhood being included in District 7, as in Concept Map D. We will have nothing in common with the rest of the area, and our issues bordering East Central will not be dealt with. I urge that we either be included in District 9, as in Map E, or split as we were prior to the last redistricting, Moon West in District 6 and Moon East in District 9. The east side of our neighborhood has a lot in common with current District 9 issues in East Central. Thank you. Pete Dinelli writes, and he references his article, Dinelli article, 2 white folk city councilors, Pat Davis and Tammy Feeblecorn, seek to gut council districts 6 and 7 with proposed redistricting map to help the marginalized. What's needed are 2 additional city council districts, not political movida, District 8 redistricting committee, and he includes the link to that article. Alan Martin Schwartz writes, thank you for updating the map's links to include map 3, 4, and 5. However, the maps alone are of little use without also updating the analysis criteria previously available for A through E and 1 and 2. When I look at that prior chart, one district is clearly an outlier, and that would be Concept D. I did not attempt to compute the standard deviation for the 8 concepts in that presentation, but I suspect that the REOC and Polsby-Popper compactness measures Concept D could be a meaningful variation from the mean. What it is for map 5 is yet to be determined. However, in the March 9th presentation, it was noted, you know it when you see it. And frankly, I don't see it in map 5. Of greater concern is the failure to date to calculate the percentage of population in a district compared with current districts, which is a euphemism for disruption factor. In the prior chart, Concept D scored 24.1%. In other words, 136,000 would be shifted, the equivalent of over 2 ideal population districts. That number alone should cause concern, but I'm inclined to believe the number for map 5 will be even greater. Please expedite research and polling to furnish new calculations sooner than later so that the commission members and public can be fully informed on the impact of these options. It would be less frequent if the parties see this data for the first time on June 29th. As to my personal preference as a District 5 resident, I prefer Concept A. Concept A scores at the higher end of the range of scores for REOC and Polsby-Popper, and most significantly has the lowest disruption at 5.8%, 32,744. Due to contiguity issues, it is not possible to adjust District 5 overpopulation, ideal, directly, but I consider concept A the next best solution. Debbie Conger writes, I am the Secretary Treasurer of the South Los Altos Neighborhood Association. Our board has not met to discuss this. I'm only speaking on my own behalf. I think this is a duplicate. I previously sent a comment that I would like South Los Altos neighborhood to go to District 9 as on map E. A reason that I did not mention before is this: South Los Altos is part of the East Gateway Community Planning Area, as is the southern part of the current District 9. Gabriel Sanchez writes, I have an attached report focused on the importance of Hispanic representation to the city of Albuquerque, as well as my CV to provide evidence of my expertise in the areas of Latino politics and redistricting. Attached is that report and his analysis, along with qualifications and notations for other reports and surveys he's been a part of, as well as his work at the university. Mary H. Smith writes, please reject proposed map concepts E, 3, and 5. I support proposed map concepts A and D, 1 and 2. Maps E, 3, and 5 each split Albuquerque's 106-year-old Nob Hill neighborhood and its 4 registered historic districts. Monte Vista Edition 1926 and College View Edition 1926 are listed on both state and national historic registers. Broadmoor Edition 1945 and Granada Heights Edition 1925 have recently been listed on the State Historic Register. An addition to the National Register is pending. Nob Hill is a community in the heart of Albuquerque and spans Route 66, Central Avenue. Nob Hill Neighborhood Association, NHNA, is comprised of 6 residential subdivisions and developed between 1916 and 1945. NHNA's boundaries are Girard Boulevard on the west, Washington Street to the east, Lomas Boulevard to the north, Garfield Avenue and Zuni Road to the south. There's an included link of the boundaries. Nob Hill neighbors are a cohesive and congenial group that focuses on how to improve our neighborhoods and maintain the historical integrity of Route 66. The MHNA publishes a professionally produced newsletter that is hand-delivered to each residence and business twice a year. The NHNA is engaged in many community activities and hosts, among other things, a farmers market, ice cream socials, holiday strolls along Route 66, talent shows featuring neighbors, architectural walks, art walks, presentations on historical preservation, the Albuquerque Twinkle Light Parade, Albuquerque Summerfest, political candidate forums, and a robust and active computer listserv that addresses neighborhood concerns and issues. Splitting Nob Hill dilutes the combined voices of the residents and creates conflicts in the Nob Hill neighborhood's longstanding efforts to be a cohesive, inclusive, active, and vibrant historic neighborhood. Please keep Nob Hill intact. I do not support Concept Map 4 because redrawn District 7 includes not only the geographical heart of Albuquerque, but extends south to include the Sunport and Mesa del Sol, which have little in common with the northern part of the redrawn District 7. Maureen Scouran writes, dear members of the Redistricting Committee, thank you for doing this important work and for all you have done to encourage community participation. I have a degree in geography and have published a paper on how to evaluate redistricting plans. I've also lived in 3 different areas of the city. I urge you to support Concept A and Citizen Maps 1 and 2. This has been a data-driven process, and these plans score highly on objective metrics. According to the total of the compactness scores given by research and polling, Concept A and Citizen Maps 1 and 2 have 3 of the 4 best compactness scores. Districts are maintained to have as few geometric extremes as possible. Further, these 3 maps generally have clear and straight borders that are easy for voters to understand. Concept A and Citizen Maps 1 and 2 move the fewest people into different districts. In the case of that decided last cycle's congressional redistricting, the court favored the least change option. And there's a link included to that summary. In eGolf versus Duran, the court held that, quote, there is significant value in maintaining the continuity of present district lines. When new areas join a district, new constituencies may need to be addressed, new contacts made, and new concerns addressed. Further, plans which fail to preserve the core of existing districts may disrupt the smooth and efficient administration of New Mexico's elections and may cause voter confusion. Thank you for your consideration. Scotty Ronberg writes, of all the maps submitted, I support the following. My first choice is Citizen Map 1, which I drew. It is compact, it evens out the population better than all the others, and keeps the districts familiar to most of the population. My second choice is Citizen Map 2, and my third choice is Concept A. Candy Patterson writes, dear Redistricting Committee members, my name is Candelaria Candy Patterson. I am a constituent from City Council District 1, and I am concerned that making significant changes at this time to some of these council district boundaries may cause some of our neighborhoods to become disenfranchised. Westside neighborhoods that utilize the Westside Coalition platform to address the needs of their community may be disenfranchised due to the revised Neighborhood Association Recognition Ordinance, NARO, which could cause a neighborhood to join another coalition for representation due to the shift in city council district boundaries that may not have the same interest, representation, or needs. An example, Citizen Map 5, the extension of District 6's west boundary from University Boulevard across the Rio Grande River into District 1 Unser Boulevard, and District 2 encompassing the District 1 West Bluff area do not appear to be communities of interest. I've lived in the Laurelwood neighborhood since 1987, which is in City Council District 1. I've been a community advocate since 1987. I was also very active on the 2010 census with the late community activist Dr. Joe Alvias and others in advocating for more representation on the west side for a new State House District 26 and the APS Board District 5. I belong to the community organizations representing the west side that include the Laurelwood Neighborhood Association, former officer and current member of the West Side Coalition, and I am a former APS board member from District 5 with boundaries that overlap City Council Districts 1 and 3. To minimize any disenfranchisement and to keep communities of interest together, my recommendation would be to adopt first choice Concept Map A, addresses compactness, least disruptive to the communities, and more contiguous. Second choice, Citizen Map 2. Third choice, Concept Map E. Citizen Map 5 and Citizen Map 1 appear to present the most significant and resounding challenges for our neighborhoods and community. Respectfully, Candelaria Candy Patterson. Eric Shirley writes, I'm very opposed to Citizen Map 4. At least District 7 should be the Eastern District and District 6 the Western District. I see no reason to complete change the current alignment. I would favor Citizen Map 2. This keeps the current alignment with minimal changes. Michael Rowan writes, would it make sense to take care of annexations of the abutting neighborhoods to the city before redistricting? He's also attached an analysis. I was researching our city limits history, and I believe we're due for a revision as density and land use adjacent to District 4 and 5 has grown so much since the last annexation. Attached are, it looks like, graphic references and some analysis related to those. Again, these are fully attached in the comments. Cynthia Cerna writes, while I am on the board of Mile High Neighborhood Association and Revitalize San Pedro Partnership, I'm submitting these comments on behalf of myself. After close review of the maps under consideration, I could support Concept A or Citizen Map 1, 2, or 3, based on addition of UNM Hospital Law School area addition, making more sense with D7 than D2. I am opposed to the configuration represented in Concept D and Citizen Maps 4 and 5, which I believe would fundamentally alter the character of D7 and increase areas that would require more intensive attention that could potentially lead to unintentional neglect of other areas like the one in which I live. I'm especially opposed to Citizen Map 4, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Concept D is also not an ideal configuration, but could live with it if that reconfiguration was selected. I am unable to attend the meeting on June 29th, but will try to connect with Travis Kellerman and join Councilor Fubelkorn's town hall on July 1st. Thank you. David Phillips writes, I am writing to support Citizen Map 3 because it preserves a specific community of interest, namely residents of historic zones in the downtown area. Thank you. Becky C. Davis writes, sorry, I really don't like Citizen Map number 5. CM number 4 is slightly better. We should be able to absorb districts 4 and 7 back into adjacent districts, move District 2 over to the east side of the river, and create a 4th district for the west side to grow into by converting county land into city land in District 3. Emily DeAngelis writes, hello, thank you for your work. I feel Citizen Map 4 is problematic. It gerrymanders D7 by stretching south to areas that lack continuity with the north and moves our neighborhood CUNA into District 6. There is no demographic or other rationale that makes sense for this change. I want to be sure that data is driving the changes. This appears to be the previous map drawn by 2 counselors without data sets. Thank you. Debbie Conger writes, per a motion made and approved by the South Los Altos Neighborhood Association Board of Directors tonight, our preference is that South Los Altos be moved to District 9, Map E. Second choice would be to remain in District 6. We do not want to be moved to District 7 because we would have very little in common with the other neighborhoods in District 7, given our proximity to Central Avenue. Charlie Bennett writes, I expect that none remember this process from 2011, 2012, and the International District neighborhoods involvement then. And he shares a link to that summary. Sadly, the International District has been districted within the shadow of a more affluent and politically powerful community for decades. Adding the country club's community, downtown, Nob Hill, along with the International District into one city council district will create an untenable amount of competition to address administrative focus and to fund projects in each community. It would ensure that the residents and businesses of the International District remain disenfranchised for another decade. Perhaps that is the intent, as it has been for 5 decades. That would remain a costly mistake that affects the entire metropolitan area's national reputation and marketability. The only map proposed thus far that does not guarantee the continued disenfranchisement of the International District is Citizen Map 4. Additionally, 2011-2012 Albuquerque redistricting process and City Council identified the need for additional districts. That need remains, but does not seem achievable short of petitioning a ballot initiative. Just saying, Charlie Bennett. And attached to this is a letter from September 30th, 2011, related to that redistricting committee and process from the District 6 Coalition. Also attached is the State of New Mexico, a joint memorial authorizing and naming the International District. The City of Albuquerque, a council bill sponsored by Ray Garduno, also identifying the International District. Same from the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners. And there's a map attached that outlines the boundaries of the International District. Meredith Paxton writes, as the creator of Citizen Map 3, which unites smaller communities of interest that derive from their importance in the history of Albuquerque, I respectfully request that it be forwarded to the City Council for further consideration. During the council redistricting that followed the 2010 census, the importance of the community of interest, COI, in the core of the city was emphasized. The area shows where we came from and who we are. Citizen Map 3 combines these historic neighborhoods in District 2. The smaller communities of interest that would form the broader unit are the 5 neighborhoods with protection overlays, historic protection overlay zones. City of Albuquerque, 8th and Forester, 4th Ward, Hooney Highland and East Downtown, Old Town, and Silver Hill. It would also encompass the Spruce Park neighborhood, listed on the National Registry of Historic Places, compiled by the National Park Service and the New Mexico State Registry of Cultural Properties, and now under consideration as the 6th Albuquerque HPO. Other highlights are the Los Duranes neighborhood, which joins Old Town as one of the 1706 founding communities, and Barelas, where the arrival of the railroad in 1880 provided seminal impetus to our economic development. The semi-rural homes along the northern extension of the Rio Grande that are another indication of our early history are a further component of this proposed District 2. The benefits offered by the overarching COI are numerous. For immediate residents and commercial interests, it facilitates the planning and implementation of consistent and enhancement measures. The more horizontal orientation of the proposed District 2 and nearby council districts unifies the city by moving eastern boundaries across the river. Because growth has been most intense in the western sector, this approach partially relieves pressure that destabilizes the older neighborhoods east of the river. The destabilization results from the need to raise the densities of the older areas beyond their original plans in order to maintain constituencies of approximately equal size throughout the city council districts. In terms of contributions to the entire city, increasing awareness of the rich and diverse cultural heritage of the District 2 found in this concept would be another unifying influence. Moreover, it would be particularly helpful in remedying citywide concerns. For example, coordinating tree planting to complement the historic architecture could make a major contribution towards solving the Albuquerque heat island effect, which is of concern to Dr. Dave Dubois, the New Mexico state climatologist. This vision of District 2 could additionally become a key element in the downtown forward plan now under discussion by helping to attract long-term multi-generational residents and business partners. Deborah Marez Baca says, I am in support of Concept Map A and Citizen Map 1 and 2. I've lived in District 5 in Northwest Albuquerque for 20 plus years in the same house and feel these maps are fair and equitable. Finally, Danielle Boardman writes, I reside in the current District 7. My preference on the posted maps is Citizen Map 2 or 3. Uptown, which extends south beyond the freeway to Lomas, should be considered a community of interest. Citizen Map 4 is ridiculous. Uptown has more in common with the eastern end of the university area than with the international district. This map appears to be a prime example of drawing a gerrymandered map to pick a candidate, allowing Tammy Feeblecorn to keep her seat for District 7 and allowing Travis Kellerman to run for Pat Davis's seat in District 6. It even gets the district numbers out of order. And that is the extent of written public comments. I'd like to move now to our next agenda item, which is public comments. And for everyone in attendance who'd like to make a comment, these are limited to 2 minutes. Julian, I'd ask your help in administering this portion and bringing folks up as they raise their hand.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Our first speaker will be, and excuse me if I mispronounce your name, but Takum A. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. You could turn on your video and you'll have 2 minutes.
Takum, do you have something to say or contribute?
Mr. Vice Chair, I think that may have been, I don't think he was here to provide any comments.
Okay.
So we'll move on to our next speaker, and it is Lan Senate.
Hi, Lan, if you're up, please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. Oppression and systemic racism bears itself in many forms. It can be as overt as the Alien Land Act that stated Asians cannot own property within New Mexico until its repeal from the state's constitution in 2006 because of voter turnout. Or the neighborhood covenants that state Black and Asians cannot live on the property unless they are indentured servants that still remain today. It can be in areas of the city that predate the creation of the city, yet still lack to this day access to sidewalks, infrastructure, and even clean water. Poverty places the burden on our communities, yet we know in a city and state with overwhelming revenue and resources, it is a conscious choice to continually disinvest in our communities. We can no longer say areas of poverty, but rather historical disinvestment, as the burden should remain on the shoulders of our policymakers. Today, this committee has the opportunity to put a step in the right direction towards rectifying the wrongs, to place power back into the hands of our communities of color. And this can only be achieved through adopting Citizen Map 5 or Fairness for Our Futures Map for full consideration at City Council. In a city where we pride ourselves on our diversity and being this model of minority majority, yet only have 2 seats at the table in which policy and investments are made is a tragedy. Anything less than 4 seats at the table, which again is not a majority, continues a system which harms and dilutes the power of our communities of color. The least amount of disruption means that the least amount of disruption.
Can you hear me now?
Into these systems that will continue to harm our communities in disinvested areas. We must think forward and account for the growth and for our council districts to be reflective of our population and of our Albuquerque values. I urge your support in adopting that full consideration at City Council. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Twyla McComb.
Hi. I apologize for not taking off my video faster. Hi, my name is Twyla McComb, and I am here as the acting vice president for the Crestview Bluff Neighborhood Association, currently in District 3. As a community of interest on the Southwest Mesa, we have a long-standing relationship with the community groups such as the Southwest Association of Neighborhoods, the West Central Community Development Group, and our city councilor, Clarissa Pena. Because of us being a disadvantaged neighborhood, there are strength in numbers. Therefore, as the Crestview Bluff Neighborhood Association would like to say that we are in favor of concept A, the map concept A for our district. We do not believe that we should move with our neighbors across the river, as our economic and frankly, our people will not be represented correctly there. So that is what I have to say. Please go with map concept A for us.
Thank you, Twyla. Julian, could you move to the next speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Our next speaker is Gabriel Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Mr. Moya, if it's possible to open the slide deck for a very brief presentation. My name is Gabriel Sanchez. I'm a political scientist and researcher who is just going to quickly summarize a few main points from a written report that I submitted last week as a member of the committee. If you could go to slide number 3, Mr. Moya. So the first point I want to make is essentially testing the research question of whether or not the Hispanic or Latino population in the city of Albuquerque are adequately represented based on the status quo or existing maps. A concept us political scientists refer to as descriptive representation. So as you see, roughly 22% of the current city council is Hispanic, which is significantly lower than their total Hispanic population within the city, the citizen voting age population within the city, and even significantly lower than Hispanic representation within the state legislature. The last point is an important one because it gives us some indication that there's something structural, i.e. potentially the maps, that are creating the underrepresentation of Hispanics specifically within the city. Next slide, please, Mr. Moya. Next question that I try to tackle in the written report is, what is the value of having more Hispanic influenced districts and potentially more Hispanic representation on the city council? Long story short is the political science literature, a lot of which I've authored myself with other members of my team, makes really clear that having more representation, particularly of the Hispanic community, will increase trust in the political system and city government more broadly, will have higher levels of civic engagement and voter turnout moving forward, improve policy outcomes and responsiveness from elected officials, which at the end of the day will help address inequalities facing this population. Next slide. These inequalities, a few of which I'll highlight here are in the written report, are very vast in the city of Albuquerque, unfortunately, for Hispanic residents. Whether we look at poverty levels, mean income, which you see are both disproportionately impacting the Hispanic Latino population, or next slide, please. Looking at health insurance, where we unfortunately continue to see significant gaps between the Hispanic population and non-Hispanic whites within the city. At the end of the day, even on the next slide, when we look at something even more broad, like access to having a computer and broadband access, much more critical these days in the context of relying on our computers for most things in life. We see at the end of the day The Hispanic community is not currently being served by the status quo maps, and consequently, this also indicates that they are a community of interest that has similar underlying policy values given the inequalities that they face. At the end of the day, next slide, please. To close out, I'd like to request that the committee strongly consider the Fairness for Our Future map concept, map 5, because it will increase the number of Latino influenced districts to 4, which would give Hispanics greater representation and adequate descriptive representation in line with the Voting Rights Act. And I believe at the end of the day, it will potentially help eradicate some of the inequalities facing the Hispanic population, which, given their sheer size, also has significant economic and overall consequences for the city of Albuquerque. Thank you for allowing me time to provide this information. Hopefully my written report is helpful.
Thank you, Gabriel. Next speaker, please, Julie.
Mr. Vice Chair, looks like Committee Member Romero may have a question or a comment. He has his hand raised.
Member Romero, would you like to quickly comment?
Very quickly, sorry to interrupt the flow of the public comment here. I just want to know if we have questions for any of the public comment. Should we reserve till committee discussion?
Yes, let's hold those until committee discussion. And if there's something short and poignant, that's fine. But for the most part, let's keep it. I know we have a lot of public comments that were written, and so I'm assuming the same for live public comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Romero.
Our next speaker is Han Nguyen.
Thank you, committee member. My name is Hương Nguyen. I'm here to speak about the concept maps for the redistricting the city council district. Based on the requirements on equal population, compactness, and communities of interest, the proposed concept map as already proposed do not reflect community of interest, whereas 47% of our community in Albuquerque are Hispanic, and only of the council district would be Hispanic majority if they were adopted. I'm here to support Citizen Map 5 or Fairness for Future for full consideration at City Council, like the previous speaker, Professor Sanchez mentioned. We deserve accurate representation. We don't want status quo. Why are we afraid of change? Why the population have been changing for the last 10 years? I'm living in northwest of the river, District 5, and we see an increasing population in our district. We need to have more accurate representation. I also would like to ask for the process to be extended so that we have more people to be able to contribute their comments, and also for the city council to have more time to consider the maps. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Next speaker, please, Julian.
And our next speaker is Kevin. Kevin, you are muted. If you don't mind just unmuting.
My name is Kevin Kirby. I live in District 2. Thank you, members of the Albuquerque City Council Redistricting Committee. I confess to being somewhat puzzled. It appears that Keith Sanchez has submitted a redistricting map which adds a 4th majority Hispanic district. I guess what puzzles me is why, to my knowledge, no other map submitted chose to more accurately represent the 47.7% of Albuquerque's Hispanic population. Currently, out of 9 districts, only 3 are Hispanic majority districts that are represented. So 1/3 of the Hispanic majority districts for 1/2 of Albuquerque's Hispanic population. This hardly seems fair. July 4th, 1776, Americans fought for representation. Hispanic majority districts also have a right to be fairly represented by 4 districts. It won't match their larger population, but it's a good start. I'm just an old white guy who wants you to take some district power away from guys like me and give it to those who are long overdue. Give it to the Keith Sanchez map for the 4 Hispanic majority districts and do the right thing for Albuquerque's Hispanic community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Our next speaker is Ryan Kios. Ryan, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Please proceed.
Sorry, there we go. Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for hearing me out. My name is Ryan Kios. I'm the Vice President of the Elder Homestead Neighborhood Association, currently located in the International District. And my comments today are in opposition to Citizen Maps 4 and 5. Citizen Map 4, as previously mentioned, is just not data driven. And it's based on, well, I'm not sure what it's based on. I'll direct your attention to an Albuquerque Journal article from June 4th, in which Councilor Feeblecorn said that she felt that our International District residents had more in common with residents north of Lomas than with current district mates in Nob Hill. There's no data to support that. And quite frankly, that kind of language is vague at best and offensive at worst. To think that, we couldn't, in the International District, we couldn't possibly have anything in common with our betters in Nob Hill. That's just offensive. And what it does is it takes Nob Hill away from an already economically challenged district. In the International District, we lack for jobs, we lack for opportunity. To take Nob Hill out of District 6 is potentially economically disastrous. As for Citizen Map 5, it's noble in scope, but anybody who knows, what it would do is it would extend District 6, where I live, all the way to Unser and Blue Water. Now consider that. What does somebody who lives on Louisiana and Zuni have in common with someone who lives on Unser and Blue Water? That's 9 miles as the crow flies. When we used to have our District 6 coalition meetings in person, someone could make it to these meetings by bus, by bike in 20, 30 minutes. You're already admitting that we're a marginalized community. And now you want to stretch us even farther? How does that clean our parks? How does that light our streets? How does that present economic opportunity for a district that's already suffering from a lack of attention from the city? I thank you for your attention today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rosalinda.
Hello, everyone. Rosalinda Dorado with el Centro de Igualdad de Derechos and el Centro Poder y Acción with majority Hispanic low-wage workers as our members. And I'm here to ask you tonight, the committee, for a chance to really be inclusive towards our marginalized, ignored, and unequitably represented for years community. During the pandemic, we saw that our Hispanic communities were marginalized and excluded from beliefs, and we don't want to be excluded anymore from the opportunity that we have today to include them in the maps and give them proper representation. So we see today that the shift in the population requires more representation on the west side of the river, as 24% must shift to the east of the river of the city districts. So based on the population of Albuquerque, there is a 44.1 Hispanic population. So it doesn't make sense that we continue to exclude Hispanic communities from being majority in districts. So I'm here to ask you to please vote for City Map 5 or fairness of our future redistricting map. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Fernanda.
Hello. Sorry, I'm making sure everyone can hear me. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, City Council members, and good afternoon to everyone who's present. My name is Fernanda, and as a Hispanic woman of color who grew up in Albuquerque, my Hispanic community is constantly growing. And I just think that 3 Hispanic majority districts is simply not enough to move forward. Our communities of color have been impacted by disinvestment for far too long, and they must have more representation to get those fair and equal investments right into our communities. The Fairness for Our Future map, or I believe it's Citizen Map 5, is the only map that proposes exactly that. It would create 4 Hispanic majority districts to ensure that communities are being accurately represented. I believe this is a map to best move forward with. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank Comfort.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Frank, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is just for me. I'm the vice president of Wisconsin and also the president of the Laurelwood Neighborhood Association. I'm here to support MAP A. I believe strongly that it will cause less disruption for any of us on the West Side community in regards to disenfranchisement in some of our areas up here. And I definitely oppose maps 5 and 1. They seem to reach also up into the West Bluff area, where some of our neighborhoods over there are already with part of Wisconsin. And you have other neighborhoods that may come into play up there in that area. And since the original owner, the original neighborhoods will be grandfathered in, this will cause some real strange areas in regards to those new members or anybody that decides to be reinstated up there. And also on map 5, reaching all the way over to the west side, I'm not sure how that would be advantageous to our international district or those other districts. We're a little bit different over here on the west side. And I want to thank you for the opportunity, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chloe Jake.
Good evening. Nawa Goatise Hopa. Hello, committee chair and members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Chloe Jake, and I am a member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma and the Pueblo of Laguna, and I am a lifelong resident of Albuquerque. I am here in support of the Fairness for Our Future redistricting map on behalf of my organization, NM Native Vote, that was a convener of the Native Redistricting Coalition during the 2021 statewide redistricting cycle. There is a persistent myth that communities of color don't care about voting or civic engagement, but the reality is that they have been shut out of being full participants at every level of government, including the local level, by design. Our communities fight for inclusion and investment and have been ignored for too often and for too long. We come before you this evening to once more make our voices heard and remind everyone that you have a mandate to make changes to the City Council district maps that will ensure our communities are being accurately and fairly represented. According to the census data, the west side of Albuquerque is growing rapidly. Along with that, communities of color and Hispanic populations continue to grow. Right now, about 47% of our population in Albuquerque is Hispanic. Additionally, I would like to remind you all that Albuquerque is also home to the 6th largest population of urban Native American residents in the nation who would benefit from a redistricting map that more accurately reflects the diversity of the city and our growing share of the population that comes from community of colors. It is a disadvantage to all the residents of our city to accept redistricting plans that maintain the status quo when the status quo has served as a tool to disenfranchise residents in the most underserved communities of Albuquerque. I urge you to advance the Fairness for Our Future map to the City Council for consideration. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Before I call the next speaker, I just want to remind attendees if they do wish to provide public comment, please just use the raise hand button and we will promote you to panelists to provide your comments. Our next speaker is Miles.
Can everybody hear me? Sorry about that, y'all.
No problem. Now we can, yes.
Just with my toddler. Hi, my name is Miles Tokeno, and I am here as Deputy Director of Olay in support of Citizen Map 5, aka the Fairness for Our Futures map. As many people have already said, I don't want to continue the public comment for too long, but as many people have said, we believe in bold and radical change for what is needed. I'm tired of the lack of engagement in our local elections, and believe that Citizen Map 5 does exactly that, to be able to reignite and reinvigorate our civic duty to participate in our local elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Leon Guerrero.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, Chairwoman McGill, members of the committee. My name is Michael Leon Guerrero. I'm a longtime resident of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County and currently living on the west side. So I also want to give my support and urge your support of moving forward redistricting map 5, Citizen Map 5, the Fairness for Our Future map. Given that nearly 50% of the population in Albuquerque is Latino, Latinos should have every opportunity for proportionate representation. And given the fact that the West Side is growing so rapidly, it's going to be almost impossible to for city council districts to not cross over into the West Side in order to have fairness in representation. So wanted to urge your support for Citizen Map 5, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, there are no other attendees with their hand raised, so that'll conclude public comment.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you for administering that. Now I'd like to hand it back to Madam Chair for our next agenda item.
I want to thank you all for the written comments, the public comment related to this process, and we appreciate your showing up tonight to help us sift through how we need to make our recommendations. I believe at this time we will look at the 8 maps that are under consideration, and someone from research and polling will take us through a process of rating those maps. And before we do that, actually, I would like to go back to the committee, and I believe Member Romero had a comment about some of the public comments. I think this might be a time that we could do that before we go into the actual rating. I would give committee members who so desire an opportunity to make any remarks, follow-up comments to what we heard from the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some questions specifically for Dr. Sanchez, if I can. I don't know, Mr. Moy, I'll follow your lead. Should I pose the questions and let him respond? Is that the best?
Madam Chair, Member Romero, he just joined back in, so he's able to turn his camera on and unmute himself, so you can go ahead and ask any questions.
Okay.
So I do want to, just say that we want to give every member of the committee an equivalent response, and let's limit those questions. Go ahead.
Dr. Sanchez, can you hear me okay, sir?
Yes, you're coming in great.
Okay. Are Latinos a community of interest, in your opinion? Latino,
yes.
Hispanic as a whole?
Yes, Mr. Romero, members of the committee, as I lay out in my report, essentially what we do as researchers is try to evaluate is a population, a community of interest, and a few brief points, if it'll help the committee with their deliberation. One is, as you saw, the socioeconomic inequalities facing the Hispanic population in the city. Typically, researchers like myself in redistricting cases are asked to walk through that type of data that defines that a population is a community of interest with shared underlying inequalities and also common policy interests because of those inequalities. Second are demographics. Probably the most important one to highlight is the age of the Hispanic population within the city of Albuquerque. In terms of median age, they're roughly, I think, 14 years younger in median age than non-Hispanic whites. And consequently, you've heard a lot of folks say that Hispanics represent 47% of the city. Well, if you look at the Albuquerque Public School student body population, they're 67%. So it just gives you an indication that the youthfulness of the Hispanic population also helps define them as a community interest. And finally, I'm a pollster also, and have done a lot of public polling, survey research of Hispanics across the state of New Mexico. And when we isolate residents of the city of Albuquerque, the Hispanic population, for example, is least likely to have trust in government, specifically when we lay out city government, which I think to me is indicative of the fact that they don't see a lot of folks like themselves, unfortunately, on the city council. Hopefully, I try not to be too long-winded. Hopefully that answers your question.
I thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sanchez and Member Romero. Were there any other follow-up comments from the members? If not, we'll proceed with the agenda and go to the rating of the maps. So I believe research and polling will lead that process.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Brian Sanderoff. First, I just want to make sure, Madam Chair, are we going to talk about instructions for voting first or after we start with the first map? How would you like to handle?
I believe that we should give the instructions first, and I believe that, you know, maybe we want to reiterate the process that we would be rating after each presentation. So then we would need to know what the process is and get a link. I believe that all the members have a link in your email for doing your ratings for the form. We need to make sure that everybody has that up. Please just, you know, raise your hand if you do. Anybody that doesn't.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Mark. I tried to link the one that Petra sent, and when I opened it up, it says closed.
I think it may have been closed because you couldn't actually rate at that time. So it should be reopened at this point, staff.
Right. I'm going to try it right. I'm going to try it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, then we're going to turn it over to Michael to talk about that process. I do want to say first, just it's a matter of personal courtesy, and I know you would like to know this. Brittany Poss is not with us tonight. Yesterday, she had a pretty major medical procedure at the hospital. She's in the hospital now, resting comfortably and some pain. She's doing great. She'll probably be released from the hospital tomorrow, we hope. She's really enjoyed working with you throughout this whole process, and but she feels bad she can't be with you tonight, but she's doing really fine now. Michael?
Extend our sincere sympathies to Brittany that she would get well soon. Michael, I do want to say that we want to make sure that all the committee members do have the link before you start. I just want to find out if anybody does not have it, who needs it or has trouble getting it up.
Madam Chair, I tried it again and it worked.
All right, there we go. Michael, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just pausing there for a moment, make sure. So yeah, I just wanted to go through the process real quick, just for to refresh the committee members. We did, the city staff did send out an email to the committee members with respect to the link in the process, but I think it's also good just for the folks out there listening to understand the process as well. And so every committee member did receive a link to a Google form, and on that form is basically kind of rearranges what you already have on the city website and just to a form. So it has an image of the map, it has a districtor link, it also has a link to the detailed maps, the PDFs. Again, you can find that on the city website. But for each concept, we also have a rating scale. So it's a 4 to 0 rating scale. 4 is strongly recommend a particular concept. 3 is recommend. 2 is neutral / mixed feelings. 1 is do not recommend. 0 is strongly do not recommend. And so what we'll go through each plan. Brian will give a brief summary. There will be a discussion of the plan. I can bring the plan up on the screen for folks to be able to see on the screen. If you can zoom in and out if needed, and bring other layers on there. Go through each plan. When they get to the last concept, it'll be concept D. then the committee members should be able to, the voting members should be able to hit submit. And as we all are familiar with, you might end up with the little grid that shows you pick out the traffic lights and click the squares that have traffic lights, and that should get you through. If for whatever reason we have issues with submitting the plan, submitting your ratings through the form, you can always email me with the ratings. Just list the concepts A, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your rating for each, and then I can put those in manually. The system will require you to put in the email address, your email address. Once you hit submit, you will get a confirmation email with the responses that you filled out. So that at least is almost like a paper trail of your ratings that you cast. And from there, that's basically after everybody has submitted, then we will create a summary table that shows the individual voting member ratings, the total rating points for each concept, as well as the average rating for each concept, and make that available and share our screen so that the committee members and the public can see those ratings and to prompt further discussion.
Madam Chair, if I could interrupt.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry for being old and slow. So please forgive me, everybody. But I guess my preferred way of voting would be to send by email to the speaker my choices on each map, because that I'm going to have a hard time getting to the link on the same computer access that I have watching and participating in the discussion. I'm afraid of slowing down the meeting. So if it's at all possible, Mr. Speaker, if you could give me your email, and then this is David Buckholz from District 8, expect to see an email from me on each choice when the voting begins. That will be much easier for me.
I'm going to hear from a couple of other members who have their hands raised, and I'll get back to that. If you'll allow me to think about it for a moment. Member Reynolds.
Yes, Madam Chair. Was the link sent to our alternates so they can also participate even though they can't vote?
I don't have the answer to that question, staff.
Because I would like my alternate to be able to see the results even though they can't vote.
Madam Chair, Committee Member Reynolds, so the link went to all of the committee members. What will happen is that only you as the voting member can vote. Your alternate can see what the ballot paper, as it were, looks like as we go through each presentation. And then research and polling at the end, once everyone's submitted everything, will pull up all the data so everyone can see how all the votes look.
It's Mr. Buckholz again. I'm sorry to interrupt. When was the link sent and by whom?
The link was sent by me yesterday at around 2 o'clock-ish, but I can resend it to you right now.
If you could, that would be good.
Yes.
I would
do that right
appreciate that.
So a follow-up, Madam Chair, is that all the alternates please log in and make sure you can log in and see the same so we have cohesiveness.
And Member Reynolds, could you please restate your reasons that you want the non-voting members to participate?
To see the process that we're going through.
Okay, but not necessarily to vote, but just to see the link.
Yes,
so I
ma'am.
just want to make sure that we stipulate that we're not asking
Yes, ma'am.
non-members to vote.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Just so that you can see the form as we go through the process.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So yes, I think that's fine. Member Buckholz, I think it's going to be really easy.
Or I think
it won't be age.
Yeah, I think we're going in the right direction. If Petra can send me the link, and then I will try to track through it now and see that I can get there, and maybe I will then withdraw my comments. But I'm still, Petra, I'm still looking for that email.
So we're holding for that. In the meantime, Member Baca had a hand raised, and let's hear from Member Baca. Do we have Member Baca? Okay.
Oh, I'm good. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My question's up.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Member Baca.
No, I don't have a question anymore. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we're just waiting for everyone to receive the email from staff. And if you can just let me know when you do get it, that'd be great.
And Madam Chair, this is Michael Sharp. One thing we could do after Brian, or after this discussion and it's time to cast a rating for each concept is I could literally bring up that part of the form for that concept and share my screen so you can see it on the screen if you'd like.
I do think that sharing it on the screen would be good so members of the public can actually see what's happening for the process. So if you would do that, that would be most appreciated.
And Madam Chair, Mark again, if he does that, then we don't have to have the alternates log in and do the same thing. We just keep it as planned, and then the alternates can see what we're seeing.
Thank you. I think that solves it. We're just waiting for a member Buckholz to let us know that you're able to access the form.
I have no email from Petra yet.
Petra, have you sent the email? I'm gonna look in my email because I believe everybody is copied on it. So I'll resend it to you now if you haven't received it. I'm sorry, Member Buckholz, I do not have your email address handy. If another member does have Member Buckholz's email.
I believe I have, bear with me, give me a minute, but I believe that I have found something from Petra at 2:27 yesterday that I'm going to try to open up and see what I come up with. So I'll send it to myself.
It was 2:26 actually.
The email has left my inbox and it's showing up as sent. Okay. So, and I've sent it to your work email.
Okay.
If that helps.
Well, we're getting there, but okay. I do have something that I sent to myself, but not from you. So it's having, you'll bear with me. All right, so I have two PDFs on this email from you.
So it's a link in the email.
All right, so it's the link form.gle, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct. So if you will click through on that link.
All right. Again, my apologies for I'd been out of town. I'm struggling with a cold and not doing as well as I should. Okay, so concept rating. Oh, you're using one thing, my wrong email is on there, right? But you want I should be responding to this now?
So what will happen is, and I'll restate the process for us all, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, is that what will happen is we just would ask you to, as the form indicates, to give us your email address, your voting member name, to select your district. And this might be a good time to actually share your screen, Michael, with the what the form looks like that we are all looking at and that you're about to take us through.
Okay, 1 second, Madam Chair, please. Let's see.
I think I'm okay because I have again, I apologize. I feel very badly, and for the public who's watching, listening to, very badly. But I think I have found that page. I now see how I can vote on that page, so I should be okay.
Thank you. I knew you could do it. Here we go. Michael, if we can proceed with you sharing your screen.
Okay. So I'll share the form real quick, and then I'll have to share a different screen when we get into the plans themselves. But at the very beginning, I'll just show the public what we have for the committee members are seeing.
Great,
so
thank you.
This is the beginning of the form, but the title, email, voting member name, selecting the district. And then as we go through, then we'll be able, the committee members will be able to go ahead for each concept to recommend or not recommend, use the rating scale. And then at the very end, after Citizen Map 5, after the committee has discussed Citizen Map 5 and all the committee members have rated every plan, at that point, then submit would be clicked. So every plan or concept has to be rated in order to submit the form.
I think we're ready to proceed.
Great. So I think I'm going to stop this share, and then Brian will go in the plan, and I'll bring that plan up in our other software. Okay, Brian, go for it.
Okay, so we're going to call up concept A, right? Start with it.
Right.
So we'll be, as Michael said, just quickly recapping the plan, answer any questions you might have. Then you would rate it. Then we'd go to the next plan, rate it, and so on and so forth. So that way it's fresh in your memory. So concept A, what do we have here? Well, this, as you can tell by the letter A and how we started our process originally, is a minimal change plan, and that it's designed to account for population changes and to minimize voter confusion. It was designed to stay on major thoroughfares so that the districts could have a specific identity and to address those population shifts. So without further ado, if we look at this map, just to remind you, District 5, you remember that was 15% too big. So it had to shrink. And under this plan, the boundary between districts 1 and 5 moved up in order to get the population deviations into, so that District 1 basically moves north to the bluff south of Petroglyph Estates. District 2, yeah, and you can see that there. District 2 crosses the river between Central and I-40 to Coors and takes in the West Mesa and the Pat Hurley neighborhoods. So you remember, because the west side was 23% of a district too large, it had to shed 14,500 people to the east side. So under this plan, the shedding, if you will, occurred between I-40 and Central, and ended at Coors Boulevard, and that went into District 2. You can see that District 6 also, compared to current, moved west to I-25. District 6 also takes in the University West area to Lomas. District 7 moves south to Lomas as well. Basically, under the current plans, District 2 used to go into the heights, if you will, in the UNM area. Under this plan, to make it all work, District 7, District 6 start moving westward toward I-25. So I-25 is a hard boundary through a lot of District 6 and District 7, not all of it, but a lot. Under this plan, Districts 3, 4, and 9 are identical to what they are currently. And the changes then simply are to make adjustments to population, stick to major thoroughfares. I think it's important to note that District 2, which is and was the third Hispanic adult majority district, under current boundaries using 2020 census, District 2 actually fell below majority adult Hispanic. But under Concept A, District 2 gets up to 57.7% adult majority Hispanic. There are 3 majority Hispanic districts, District 1, District 3, District 2, and the percent, as I said, in adult Hispanic in 2 is increased significantly. So that would be pretty much a recap of Concept A.
Thank you, members. At this point, you may make your rating from 0, strongly do not recommend, to 4, strongly recommend. And if everybody will just, we'll give you a second to do that. If you need more time, please let me know. I believe everyone has, that I can see, is ready for us to go to the next map.
Okay, then the next one that would be looking at is concept D. Why are we going from A to D? It's because the committee, along its deliberative process along the way, did pass up on concepts B and C. And so, but I think to give context, it's worth saying that concepts A, B, and C were very similar in the east side and the heights. And so when we were designing concept D, we wanted to provide a different orientation of the east side districts as compared to A, B, and C. You rejected B and C. So here we see District 9. District 9 becomes a foothills district, follows Wantabo basically to Montgomery, basically goes from Four Hills to El Dorado High School. District 9 does. And then that pushes District 8 to become a far Northeast Heights district, basically north of Montgomery and north of Spain. And then District 4 shifts south to Candelaria rather than Montgomery. So as District 9 goes north, pushes District up north, that brings District 4 a little further south. It shifts it south to Candelaria rather than Montgomery. And so those are the big changes in the heights. The District 7 mostly takes everything between I-25 and Tramway. So District 7 becomes a wider district, if you will. It's more rectangular in shape, going from Wantabo to I-25 for the most part. And then District 6 stays mostly south of Lomas, except for a few areas, which I won't get into that level of detail. District 4 crosses the river to Coors between Central and I-40 and stays west of I-25, District 2 does, and moves north into District 4. So in this District 2, it's also crossing over again between Central and I-40 to Coors. And it's also going further north into District 4 up to Paseo del Norte. It includes that Vista del Norte neighborhood that used to in District 2 there. So I guess the primary objective of this plan then was to have a different look in the Heights districts and to adjust the adjustments that occur as a result of that. It is a less compact plan than the other plans. 24% of the population moves into new districts, and that's partially being attributable to the different configuration in District 9.
All right. This time we'll vote on that concept map. If anyone needs extra time or have questions, raise your hand and let me know. Looks like we're ready. Let's go on to the next one.
Great. Concept E. So the objective in concept E, primary objective, was to redistribute the downtown area between two districts, in this case between Districts 2 and District 6. Over the years, there's been some people who talk about that perhaps some of the older areas in the downtown and valley have more infrastructure needs, and some people have suggested splitting the downtown area into more than one district. And so this particular concept basically takes that into account. It's identical to concept A with respect to districts 1 and 5. District 2 does cross the river on both sides of Central Avenue in this particular plan. On one place, it goes to Coors between I-40 and Central, and to the ditch south of Central. The southern boundary of District 2 stays mostly along Central, east of the river. So if we can zoom in there, in District 3, so you can see in District 2 is picking up the Vecinos del Bosque area in this. So the area, the Vecinos del Bosque area, which is closer to the Bosque, in this case goes into District 2, but District 3 does retain, the whole Westgate area and the whole East Coors area and the like. But that is a difference in this particular concept. District 2 also extends to Carlisle between Central and I-40. So what we're seeing in this plan basically is that District 6 picks up the downtown area south of Central and also south of Lomas between Carlisle and Wyoming. I would say that the big picture on concept E is that on the east side of the city, the districts all move like in a clockwise fashion so that District 6 can come around into Borellis and to the southern part of downtown. And the big picture also is that the downtown is divided between two districts roughly on Central Avenue, and the other districts are adjusted to accommodate that objective.
Thank you. So voting for concept map E. If you have questions, need more time, please let me know. Looks like we're good. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, the next map is Citizen Map 1. And the stated objective by the designer of this plan was to get more of the districts equal in population. So as you know, we have a maximum deviation in these districts of plus or minus 5% from the ideal population of the district. And the objective of this plan was to get those deviations lower, closer to the 0. And this particular plan, Citizen Map 1, is identical to Concept A with respect to districts 3, 4, 5, and 6. But it makes 3 changes to accomplish that objective to equalize the population among the districts. So first, if we go, Michael, to the West Bluff area, north of I-40 and east of Coors, those 2 precincts there. On the west side, we have, on many of the plans, when the districts are crossing over to the river, it's between Coors and it's between Central and I-40. Here we see a couple of precincts in the West Bluff area that go north of I-40 and east of Coors. The objective was to equalize the population between districts 1 and ultimately 1 and 2. And so that's why it was done. And then if we go over to District 9 and how it moves west into District 7, moving from Eubank to the Easterday Drive between Constitution and I-40. So this particular plan, as you can see, juts out, and District 9 picks up a little more west of Eubank in that area. Now, I would make note that there's a neighborhood there. It's not a neighborhood association, but the Mesa Village neighborhood, and so that takes a chunk out of that one. And then finally, there are 2, District 8 takes in 2 precincts, additionally from District 7 between Eubank and Moon. So this would be a perfect example of the tensions that we talked about between some of the principles in districting. On the one hand, you've got the issue of sticking to major thoroughfares, keeping the boundaries straight. And then you have another issue of trying to equalize the population. This plan does equalize some of the population among the districts, but it does so by jutting out a little here and there from the major thoroughfares. So it's a matter of which would be, most important to you as you evaluate that.
Thank you. So please let us know if you have any comments. Need more time. Looks like we're ready.
All right. Citizen map 2. So citizen map 2, the citizen stated objective was to decrease the population deviation in District 8. And so as you compare this plan to concept A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, those districts are identical. The only districts that are affected by this are districts 7 and 8. So basically District 8 moves even further south into District 7 than in concept A. District 8 moving further south again into District 7. The objective was to equalize the population. That was really the only change in citizen map 2, equalize the population and add a little more into District 8 from 7.
It looks like everyone is ready to go. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, citizen map 3, we did hear from some citizens tonight explaining this plan. It was originally the historic COI revised plan. The stated objective was putting a historic core of Albuquerque into a single district, District 2. And basically, it's identical to concept A with respect to districts 1 and 5. It's identical to citizen map 1, which is like concept A with respect to districts 8 and 9. The big differences in this plan are with districts 2 and 6. Now, concept A did keep the historic areas together in the North Valley and the downtown area because the North Valley and downtown was wholly comprised in concept A. What this plan does that's different, first of all, is that both districts 2 and 6 cross the river. And so first, let's look at that. So District 2, it's basically a North Valley, downtown West Side district. In this case, District 2, okay, well, first I actually want to touch on the major difference in District 2, that besides having that downtown area and going across to Coors, it basically is going up to the UNM area compared to concept A, and thereby incorporating some of the neighborhoods such as Silver Hill and Spruce Park. So here we have a district that's the North Valley and the downtown, but it does cross over I-25, picks up some of the university areas and some of those historic neighborhoods like Silver Hill, Spruce Park. Some of them are in the current District 2, but others are not. And then District 6, if it loses the UNM area, then it must pick up some from District 2. So what it does is it picks up south of the downtown, including parts of Morelos. District 6 is picking up south of downtown and areas, parts of Morelos, and it crosses the river to pick up population near Central and Sunset by the Bosque. So District 6 is crossing the river by the Bosque. District 2 is crossing over in places where we mentioned, That is the defining differences between this plans. Frankly, the other districts are pretty close.
Don't see any questions. So I would say we continue.
Okay. Citizen map 4. Citizen map 4, as stated by the objective, was to really rethink the orientation of the two mid-heights districts, District 6 and District 7, without making major changes to the other districts. So what we see is a different orientation, whereas 6 and 7 used to be, one on top of each other, if you will. Now we're seeing them side by side. District 6 takes everything south of Manal, between San Mateo and Eubank, as well as neighborhoods between Candelaria and Manal, between Louisiana and Eubank. So District 6, south of Manal. District 7 stays south of Montgomery, east of I-25, and mostly west of San Mateo, although it does extend to Wyoming on the north side of the district. So that's district. So whereas the boundary between them used to be Lomas, with one being on the north and one being in the south, now we're seeing an opposite configuration side by side.
All right, it looks like committee members are good. So let's go on to the final one.
Okay. The final map is Citizen Map 5. This was formerly called the Fairness for Our Future Plan. And the stated objective originally in the first meeting that we heard this plan was to increase representation for the West Side and to create an additional majority Hispanic district. So what is the additional majority Hispanic district under this plan? It's District 6, and that district gets up to 50.5% adult voting age Hispanic, 50.5%. Really, the big picture on this plan is that there are two East Side districts that cross the river onto the West Side, each extending to Unser. So whereas, let's say, Concept A extended to Coors, under this particular concept, we're seeing an extension to Unser. So if we take a look first at District 6, zoom out a little, we can see that it does wholly contain the International District. And then it traverses to the UNM area south of Central. And it covers south of the downtown area, including parts of Morelos, goes up to the Albuquerque Country Club area. Then it crosses over the river, and it picks up population again by Vecinos del Bosque, the area that when you cross over the river, just there by Sunset Boulevard, and then the area again, just almost like by Monte Carlo Steakhouse in that area. And then it continues to extend west side to Unser. So it's a district that gets up to 50.5% Hispanic, and it runs from Wyoming to Unser. District 2 is primarily a North Valley downtown district. It crosses the river between Los Volcanos and I-40. And it extends to Unser as well. It also picks up a couple of precincts north of I-40 there, east of Coors. District 2 also picks up a couple of precincts by Carlisle. So the objective again is to create a fourth Hispanic district, 50.5%. It does so by extending District 6 and 2 further up the west side to accomplish the objective. the other districts are roughly similar to current.
Thank you very much. Members appear to have voted, and I think we're good. And that completes the review of the process. Thank you to Research and Polling for all of the work for the committee on this process. I know that your work will continue with council, and so we appreciate it. And I will go back to committee at this point. I believe that we are told that we do not have a set number of maps that we need to, we're not limited on the number that we can recommend. So I would suggest that everyone submit, and I'll ask Research and Polling how you will demonstrate the results, or how you will show the results. Will that happen in this meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Michael. So I'm watching the responses as they come in. And as soon as we have all 9 voting members rate the concepts, then I'll put them into a spreadsheet, have a table, and I should be able, and I want to double check make sure everything looks good. And I should be able to share that screen within a couple minutes.
Great, thank you very much. So what we have after this process, I think, we've talked about all the maps. What we want to do is allow each committee member to make a closing statement to become a part of this record. I do see Member Quesada had a comment, and then I'll continue after that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question. This is such an important part of the process. Would it be okay if I take just 2 minutes to confer with my alternate before submitting?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me see. Was there anyone else who had a comment? If you want to wait till you're ready, Member Quesada, just to let us know. I think this might be a good time just to reiterate, Petra, the process that happens after we make our closing and we end this meeting tonight. Just what will happen in that timeline, if you just want to reiterate it for people who might be late joining.
Madam Chair, yes, I'll be happy to. So the next steps will be very immediately. The report will be going out on the email list. It'll be emailed to the councillors and going on the website. That will contain the recommendations of the committee, as well as background information on the process you guys have gone through. And all the public comment will be an appendix to that report. As part of the communications on this, we'll also be explaining the legislative process, which is the next step. So August 1st is the next City Council letter of introduction. And at that letter of introduction, there'll be 2 bills. One will be an OC, meaning other communication, which will be for the council to adopt the report. And the other will be the ordinance, which makes the changes. That will have a map associated with it, and it'll be that ordinance that the councillors will be either adopting as is or amending a little bit or doing something totally different. The steps for that are that we'll be doing what we call a double holdover. So instead of being held over to the next meeting, it will actually be held over to the next meeting after that. So it'll be heard by the full council at the first meeting in September, which actually is the 7th of September. It's actually a Wednesday because the 5th is Labor Day. And so the councillors will have their first deliberations on this as a council as a whole on September 7th. I did mention this earlier because I had forgotten it, but we will be doing a presentation to the City Council either at the meeting on August 1st or the meeting on August 15th. I'm not sure which agenda we'll be getting onto, but just as a presentation to the councilors to kind of talk through everything that you guys have got and make sure that they're familiar with the reports and aware of everything. We will be continuing to accept public comment via the website, and those will be collected by Julian, and we'll be sending those to all of the councilors for their review.
And we do understand that the website remains open for public comment throughout this process.
Madam Chair, that's correct. The website will remain up as well as Districtor. And so if people wish to continue drawing maps and submitting those for consideration, those will also be able to be submitted as part of their public comment.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
In regards to public comment, Petra, thanks for that, restating that summary and the clarification there. I was informed that there may have been some folks on the Spanish interpretation side that had their hands raised during public comment that weren't able to speak. I'm wondering is there any way to see if anyone has tried to raise their hands since we closed public comment, if that option is still available to members of the public, or if there's any way to maybe re-prompt briefly while we're waiting for Member Quesada and also to finish voting.
I'm done. Thank you, Member Quesada. Absolutely, we do not want to inadvertently miss anyone. So if there were primary Spanish speakers who wanted to comment, I don't think the committee would disagree that we want to hear from them. If those attendees are still present, can you let us know, Julie?
Madam Chair, I did see one hand go up after we had closed public comment, but I don't believe they are still in attendance in the meeting. But if there are people that would like to provide comment, just please raise your hand and we'll get you in.
And we're specifically stating for those individuals who were Spanish speakers, is what I believe Member Kellerman was saying, that we did not see and that we overlooked. So I'd like to recognize them if they're still available. And and also ask, apologize for our oversight and know that you can make a written comment, and that, you know, everyone is welcome to attend the council meetings. Are those meetings still virtual, or are they doing hybrid, in person and virtual?
Madam Chair, the last city council meeting was virtual, but they will be reassessing kind of the current situation when they go back to meet in August. Whether it'll be in person, but at the very least it'll be hybrid. And I just want to clarify that there's only one kind of pool of attendees in the Zoom. So whether or not they're receiving the interpretation or not, we would see their hand raised. There's not necessarily like two different groups of people. So just to clarify.
Thank you. I thought I had failed to see something. I did see someone's hand go up after public comment was closed. So I did see it, but we had moved on in the agenda. So, all right, thank you. Wanted to make that clarification. Member Quesada, you're good, and I see a hand raised from Member Buckholz.
Just to thank everybody for the good work that they've done on this throughout the process. Thank you for being patient with me this evening particularly. And then I'm looking for results, but I don't think I've seen results, but that's probably my fault and not anybody else's.
I believe we're not quite at that part yet.
But Madam Chair,
you should have received an email, so you should check your email to once you submit that shows
I did get a submission. I did get a submission email. And Madam Chair, particular thanks to you for carrying the burden of having to run all of these meetings for all this time and being patient with everybody.
Thank you much. I see Michael, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I do have a table of the ratings, and if it's so pleases, I can go ahead and share that ratings, and then that could lead to further discussion if you so choose. But but I haven't really emailed or distributed this yet. I was just on the screen for now, and we can send something to the committee and city staff when the meeting's finished.
Sure. Can you send it to us before you share it publicly?
I would need to PDF it and put it into an email to the members. So it could take a little bit, a minute or two.
Okay. So yes, I would say then go ahead and share it.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, share on the screen right now, or?
Go ahead and share
Okay.
it right now.
All right, thank you. Okay. Let's see. Oops. All right, so just a quick summary. There are a couple ways to look at the ratings, and in this particular view, you have the concepts down the left-hand side with each member's rating across the top for each concept. So for concept A, the individual ratings from the members representing districts 1 through 9 across the top. And then the ratings total is just simply taking the sum of the ratings and getting 24 for concept A, for example. And then the average rating is simply just is the mean or the average of the ratings. And so you can see that for every single concept that was rated by the committee members. And once again, just to reiterate, 4 was strongly recommend, 3 was recommend, 2 was neutral, mixed feelings, 1 is do not recommend, and 0 is strongly do not recommend.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to go to back to the committee now to have a discussion on whether or not we want to have all of these maps sent over to City Council for review, or if we want to further vet to determine to limit the number that we send. Is there will the committee determining or what is the temperature of the committee related to how we do that process? Are we going to send all 8 or do we want to narrow it down? I'd open that to discussion. And I see Member Romero.
Madam Chair, I encourage the committee to send all of them and err on the side of inclusion, but I'm glad to comment further on that, but we can put it to vote or discussion.
I would say that we could entertain a motion that we will send all 8 if we want to do that.
I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion.
All right, we have it moved and second that we will send all 8 maps to City Council. And if we want to call a roll call for the vote.
Council District 1, Committee Member Segura. You're on mute. Committee Member Segura, you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was distracted and did not hear the question.
Oh, the question, the motion is to send all 8 maps to council.
No.
Council District 2, Committee Member Romero.
Yes.
Council District 3, Committee Member Quesada.
No.
Council District 4, Committee Member Reynolds.
Yes.
Council District 5, Committee Member Aragon.
No.
Council District 6, Committee Member, Chair McGill.
Yes.
Council District 7, Vice Chair Kellerman.
Yes.
Council District 8, Committee Member Buchholz.
Yes, and I'd like to explain my vote, please.
Council District 9, Committee Member Pasco.
No.
And back to Mr. Buchholz.
Yes, I voted yes on this, but under the understanding that the council will get all of the information, including the voting totals, and people can see from the voting totals where I felt. But given that the council takes recommendations from us, can do what it likes with the recommendations, and can make its own decisions, I think it's better that they see all of our work, including the work of the people who worked hard on things that I did not approve of, but that I appreciate their work, because the council will be aware of all of that information anyway, and they will be able to act as they like to act. So in the spirit of saying, look, we have people who feel differently on this, but we all work together on it, to continue their debate, which will continue whether we vote to send this all along or not. My vote was to send everything along.
Thank you very much. The results?
That passed on a 5-4 vote.
Great. Thank you, committee members. I wanted to give everyone an opportunity for a 2-minute, and we're going to be strict about 2-minute close for this process. We thank you for your commitment of time. Certainly, you know, this volunteer effort for us is a labor of love, and I know that we all love our city and want it to be better. So Petra, if you'll call each council district for their close, and I would like to go last.
Madam Chair, yes. Council District 1, committee members Segura and Aragon.
My representative is not here, unfortunately. I wish he was. He's visiting his daughter in San Antonio, who's graduating from college. So I applaud him for that. And I miss his support. I just want to say that I think everyone has done a fantastic job putting a lot of effort into getting these various plans approved. I think the citizens of Albuquerque will be very supportive of what we've done and what we've presented from that standpoint. And I just want to say that it was a pleasure working with everybody on this committee, and hopefully we get a chance to do something like this again. That concludes my comments.
Council District 2, committee members Romero and Baca.
Thank you, Ms. Morris, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Keller. Thank you, committee members, for your hard work. Yes, I echo the same sentiments. This was a very interesting process, and I'm grateful to have been part of it. And thank you to the public for being involved. You know, I think fundamental to this whole democratic ideal of equitable representation is a well-informed public through this transparent process. That's why I encourage us to err on the side of inclusion. Let the council do their work. They can parse this out in committee work, include all the information in the spirit of what Mr. Buckhold said. I'm an advocate of the Fairness for Our Future map. It's in the name, very simply put. It addresses a lot of the issues as I see concerning. There is a natural tension between these principles, as Mr. Sandaroff said, but this is what the city is left with. This is what's left with in terms of crossing contiguity and compactness issues. It's responsible in terms of fairness for our future, in terms of the congruent approach to the West Side. It gives the West Side more representation. And our city council, in terms of descriptive representation, should look more like the city of Albuquerque. A lot of that was echoed in the public sentiment and comment, which I also think is a good showing of the support for this particular map. I do not think it dilutes the West Side. It gives them more voice at the table. And it addresses the equity gap, this equity gap with the growing population and really the growing Hispanic population who has a lower voting age. Again, fairness for our future is what I'm advocating for, but I'd say let's give it all to the city council and allow them to do their job, give them a full menu of options. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'm just going to echo everybody else. This was a fascinating process. Took a lot of time, so I appreciate everybody's time, both on the committee and in the public. We had a lot of public support out there. It was interesting to see everybody's perspective, both whatever they were for and whatever they were against. And so I very much appreciate it. And I've always tried to keep it in my mind, we were not the decision makers here. It's not our job to decide what the new council districts will be. Our job was to get maps for the council to decide. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. Obviously, I'm for city map C or 5, I'm sorry, citizen map 5. I do believe a city whose population is 48% Hispanic and will be growing should be represented appropriately in its districts. That said, thank you. I appreciate everybody.
Council District 3, committee members Casada and Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Petra, community members, and our community. I'd like to thank Research and Polling for their effort with this process. It was a very great experience to be able to do this and represent District 3. We'd like to wish Ms. Paz a quick and speedy recovery as well. Sorry she couldn't be here this evening. She's worked so hard to get to this moment, but hopefully she'll watch it later. I also like to thank my alternate. We collaborate a lot, and so it was very nice to have somebody that I can work with who understands our issues here in District 3. And to the constituents who reached out to provide their feedback, it looks like concept A was the most popular map, which I'm so happy with. I'd like to give a little bit of a explanation about my vote for the for citizen map 5, fairness map. After speaking to several individuals about this map, you know, I'm here to represent District 3, and those are the folks that I'm, you know, going to listen to and much of their concerns, and I kind of agree that, and I appreciate Professor Sanchez's report. I do. I think that Hispanic majority is something that we need to look towards in the future. But for now, historically, we have had small pieces of the east side of the district cross the river and represent some of us here on the west side. And occasionally, you know, that I call them tentacles, those tentacles, you know, expand and retract. And I just feel like having 2 of those tentacles come out just wouldn't, it would just divide many of our communities of interest. And I've said since meeting 1, that was my main concern, is communities of interest, keeping them together, especially communities of need. And I just feel that with the growth on the west side, 10 years from now, we may be able to create a whole additional district. And so with that in mind, I did not vote for Citizen Map 5, and just don't think that we would be able to sustain feeding 2 tentacles coming over to the west side. So with that, I'll turn it over to my alternate. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Charisse. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Research and Polling, everybody participating. Y'all did a great job. This was a unique process, one that I had never been part of before, and so I appreciate, you know, the opportunity to be included. And you know, really, you know, I think for us, you know, here in District 3, we really listened to our constituents here in the area. We really wanted to maintain our community of interest in looking at keeping the west side whole without having other districts, you know, seep in from the other side of the river. And I wholeheartly believe that as we continue to grow in the future, that we look to maybe add an additional district to the west side. And so with that, you know, concept map A was one that followed as closely as we could get it. And so that's, you know, what we leaned in towards. We did have, you know, communication with a lot of constituents here in the area. They had the same sentiments. You know, I do wholeheartedly believe that that we need to work on that Hispanic majority. And I think that there are other ways that we might be able to accomplish that without bringing, you know, over two additional districts from the east side And so again, thank you guys for the opportunity to participate. I also believe that that we should send maybe the top 3 maps in the idea that less items on the menu makes it easier to select the meal, right? And so I'll just leave it with that. But again, thank you guys for the opportunity. Grateful to be part of the process. Thank you.
Council District 4 committee members Reynolds and Latham.
Thank you, Petra and Madam Chair. Petra, I just want to say for the city, the amazing support that your team provided for this group over the tenure of this. And if there's any way we can give feedback to the city on how well a job you did, kudos to you, number one, for everything you've set up, all the stuff that you've sent out for the social media. Your staff has been amazing, and I want to say, thank you so much for that. I want to say thank you to Brian and his staff with research and polling that setting the bar for the first night and getting us in tune on a track made this so much easier than I had ever anticipated, because I thought, how are we going to do this? And you totally helped us along that track. And then, Madam Chair, thank you for chairing this. Not an easy step to do, and you stepped right up and did a fantastic job. And Travis, the questions that you asked and posed for a lot of the research that was put into this just blew me away for how much detail that you asked for, that really brought a lot of insight, stuff that I would have never asked, but I want to thank you for doing that. And then thank you to everybody on this committee. We worked well together, I thought. There wasn't any, I think, tenuous moments that people were arguing. I think we came to resolutions quickly, and it was a great group to work with, and I thank you for that. And I want to give time for my alternate, Rebecca. So go ahead, Rebecca.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for this incredible process. I do just want to echo Mr. Hernandez's statements about, like, yes, we absolutely need more Hispanic representation on the city council. And it doesn't mean that we have to redraw every district, or we have to redraw certain districts just to make sure that there's more Hispanic representation on our city council. So thank you, sir, for acknowledging that. And I also agree that that while I respect Mr. Reynolds' vote and decision to recommend that be inclusive, all maps go to the council, I believe that we were appointed for a reason, which was to make it as easy as possible for the city council to make an informed decision based on the constituency that they appointed or asked to participate in this process. And so while I understand the desire to be inclusive and send all the maps, I feel like we also might have just set back months of work that we've all put into this by giving them so many options to start the process over again. But I respect all of you who voted yes. I respect especially Mr. Reynolds. Thank you for working so hard in District 4. Like, again, this is like, what an interesting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rebecca.
Council District 6, committee member Aragon.
That's quite all right. Everyone, good evening. Madam Chair, let me thank you first for your leadership and guidance. I certainly appreciated the tenor of the meetings, and we credit you for your leadership in that regard. I'd like to publicly thank Councilor Lewis for appointing me. Staff, wonderful job. As always, research and polling is top shelf. I think that the work that we've done together is important, but I think it's important for the citizens of Albuquerque to appreciate the fact that City Council, Mayor Keller, allowed real public input into this process, and everyone involved should be applauded for their work. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be serving with each and every one of you. Thank you. It's been my honor and privilege.
Council Districts 7, committee members Kellerman and Bergmans will be returning to number 6, Council District 6 at the end for Chair McGill to close.
Thank you, Director Morris. I wanted to say in particular to you, thanks for all your guidance and support as we've gone, and being a mom in parallel. I give full respect, and I've been amazed at how you've been able to juggle both responsibilities. I feel that we've reached a point now, we've submitted these maps together. We've given a lot of options, as another member noted, and I felt along the way we have opened ourselves to a data-driven dialogue. That's been really important. Everyone on the committee at large has been very respectful, and we've communicated well. We've had some good discussions. We've also listened to the public, and we've made attempts to reach out and engage them. There's a lot of learning here. There's a lot of things in the process that can be improved. Council services through and through, Julian, Petra, you've been incredible. And I know there's others working behind the scenes to get the word out. I know how difficult that job is as well. I wanted to just note that this is being recorded, and we have other things to recommend to the city council as well. One of those, along with the maps, that I want to note is something that's come up along the way, which is the stark fact that it's very difficult to represent a council district with the resources available to city councilors and council services. So as we've noted, the population increase in Albuquerque means that each district has many more people within its boundaries. So overall, there's simply more people in Albuquerque, and there's more constituents to represent. So I'd like to also just extend a recommendation, and I'll be adding this in comments and outreach to city council members, that council services, that their budget be increased in the next budget cycle so that the city can be properly represented, that outreach and communication can be improved, and more people can be engaged in local government. I think that's really important. I also wanted to note and thank the committee for their openness to new data, and something that was really important to me was consideration of socioeconomics in this process. So the social vulnerability index, including that, considering that along the way, that's very important. I hope that becomes a metric that's used by the council in making their final determinations. And frankly, a decade from now, that it's used again in the same process to address the changes in the city. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone on the council. I really think everything that's happened so far, it's been very professional. Research and polling, Brian, Brittany, Michael, it's your work and your experience is seen. And I really appreciate a lot of the entertaining of some of the intellectual endeavors, and then also the real deep prompts to consider how we might analyze these maps and how we might make iterations on them. Also how to frame what was submitted. You gave us understanding along the way. So I don't want to be too long-winded. Thank you all. Madam Chair, thank you for your service. It's been an honor to serve with you. And thank you for managing these meetings all along the way and wrangling everything. I'll pass it over to my alternate as well. Heather, thanks for working with me on this process.
Thanks. And like everyone else, I'm just going to echo that we're all grateful for everyone's support and participation. It has been super interesting to listen to each one of these meetings. The city staff has been incredible, like everyone said, and research and polling is always great, of course. And I just wanted to especially thank the members of the public who spent time drawing maps to submit to us for everyone to take a look at. So like everyone else, thank you guys so much for this experience.
Council District 8, committee members Buckholtz and Powers.
Yes, thank you. I think I've made all the substantive comments I wanted to make. I just want to reiterate the thanks also to the staff and our experts, without whom we could not have come close to doing the work that was necessary here. So great working with you guys. Thanks again. And it was a pleasure for me to be of service to all of you and to the city.
Yeah, thank you, staff and professionals. It was a great process, and I think the what we arrived at was good. It was complete, thorough, and I think sending it all off to council will make sense. They can look at the data, the scoring, the maps, and make their decision. So once again, it's been great working with David and staff and the professionals. And for the sake of brevity, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Council District 9, committee members Pasco and Stull.
Okay, so thanks, like everyone else has been saying, thanks to the city staff for all the excellent support, and to Research and Polling for really great detailed work on all of this. We couldn't do it without you. I think we made a mistake in not narrowing things down for the city. I understand the reason why we're presenting all the maps. I get it. Would have gone a different way myself. I think the voting process that we went through was a good one, and ideally the city will take that into account when they look at the maps. And especially thanks to Chairwoman McGill for emphasizing public participation. I think that was exactly right. And then for running the meetings really well. I'm just glad I didn't have to be the chair. So good job on that. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Good evening. I would say that I have to echo all of the kudos that have been said tonight. It's been my privilege to participate. I would have to agree with Ken that I think it would have been better served if we would have narrowed the options that we sent forward. But I think with that being said, what we are sending forward is a quality product. But thank you very much.
And Council District 6, Chair McGill for closing comments.
I do want to thank you all for participation, members of the public who joined us in the webinar on YouTube, and definitely to all the staff of the City of Albuquerque and the consultants from Research and Polling for the excellent work, members of the committee. We did have a civil process, and that's really great. I do want to say that my role as the chair of this redistricting committee effectively ends now. I'm certain that there's going to be some loose ends that need to get tied up, but my dog walker is here, and it seems like it's time to end the meeting. Sorry about that. Hold on one second if you would. All right. I just wanted to say that I really do appreciate everything that has happened in this process. I want us to remember, and I want to talk to the citizenry, that let everyone know that this really is about one person and one vote. And we hope that you will go to the polls and vote and demand better governance and true representation. I agree that we need more minority representation on the city council. I hope that this process will get us closer to that, and that we will all just go have great dinner and do the work of making Albuquerque better. It's really everybody's job. So with that, and sorry for my dog going crazy, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's go home, y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all.
Yes.